All right, we are continuing in Acts chapter 20. In Acts chapter 20, we find the saints partaking of the Lord's Supper. We find the Apostle Paul in Acts chapter 20 had gathered with some in Troas, according to verse number 6. And he stayed there for 7 days. Then it says in verse number 7, on the first day of the week. So we learned something about partaking of the Lord's Supper. What we have here is a binding example with how the disciples, with how the saints, they partook of the Lord's Supper on the first day of the week. This would be each first day of the week. Keep in mind that this example that we have here was under the careful oversight of an apostle. So an apostle was there, Paul was there, and we find the saints partaking of the Lord's Supper each first day of the week. That's the pattern that we are to follow today. On the first day of the week, when we were gathered together to break bread, that's talking about the communion or the Lord's Supper, Paul began talking to them, intending to leave the next day, and he prolonged his message until midnight. There were many lamps in the upper room where we were gathered together. And what you have there in verse 8 are some additional details with respect to what was taking place, where and when they gathered together. They were in an upper room with many lamps. And there was a young man named Eutychus sitting on the windowsill, sinking into a deep sleep. Had he fallen asleep because of Paul's preaching? I don't know. Maybe so, maybe not. But they were, it appears that they had met during the evening time. So nonetheless, he fell asleep. And as Paul kept on talking, he was overcome by sleep. You know, sometimes people fall asleep in the pews too. But what do? Thankfully, you can fall asleep in the pews and not hurt yourself or die. This man here, he fell down from the third floor and was picked up dead. But Paul went down and fell upon him, and after embracing him, he said, do not be troubled, for his life is in him. So it appears this was a miracle. He had died, and Paul brought him back to life. When he had gone up and had broken the bread and eaten, he talked with him a long while until daybreak, and then left. So what you have here, you have this example of the saints gathering on the first day of each week. We are to partake of the Lord's Supper. It is something that was instituted by Jesus Christ to remember his death, to remember his sacrifice. And so this is the pattern that we are to follow. Now obviously we don't have to take it in an upper room or with many lamps or someone falling off of a third-story floor. But we are to partake each first day of the week. The Holy Spirit has given us this information, the time reference, the time factor of how often we partake of the Lord's Supper. I hope this helps. If you have questions about this, I did a sermon not too long ago talking about establishing Bible authority, how we go about establishing Bible authority, the different kinds of authority, talked about aids and also additions. That's also available on our website as well. And if you have more questions, please let me know. Talk to you later. Take care, and God bless.